so let's continue under the business rules. The next section is where you set up what's called your duplicate criteria. Now, if you notice under this section where it says duplicates, you have a criteria setting for both individuals and organizations. Now, by default, when you first go into your system, you'll probably see it'll have some field like org name and some astronomically long character count, 50 or 60. A lot of times in the individuals, it'll be that as well. What I suggest is lowering the count of characters that the system will search in order to bring back a potential dupe. And the reason being is some people spell names wrong. You know, like if it's a long, complicated name, you might have sometimes where it's spelled correctly, sometimes where it's not. Some names will actually have dashes or hyphens or what they call in Hawaii an okina, like an apostrophe. And if that's the case, by narrowing the criteria, making it more broad in essence, when you search for a person, the potential of it being a dupe will come back. So let's go, like for instance, and when you go set up your individuals, I would make the last name maybe 8 characters, the first name 5. Yes, when you go do a search or you try to add a new record, it will return more people that are potentially dupes, but it's better to have more than less. The other thing you always want to make sure is checked is this little section down here that says aliases. And the reason being is if you are adding a record and you're putting in somebody's, like another known name for them, especially organizations, like a lot of organizations will have an alias that they're more commonly known by as opposed to their actual organization name. So for instance, I might have International Business Machines in as an organization with an alias of IBM. And somebody comes along, they do a search, they don't find the record, or they go into add IBM, and by saying check aliases, it would pop back and say, well, is this potentially the same organization and therefore preventing you from adding a dupe? These are pretty simple. Again, on the organization name, I would lower it down to something like 8 characters, just so you have a better chance of catching a dupe before you put it in. All right, that's all for the duplicates. Okay, so let's continue on. I'm going to jump down past this option that says membership. Now, in the event that you have the membership module, or say the event module, you see down here you have event options, you will have this as an added feature that you can then make some settings for. But because those are add-on modules, I'm not going to cover those. Feel free to contact me privately after this and I'll walk you through what those are if you need them. All right, so let's go to this Generate ID section. This one here where it says Generate IDs and batch options, they're sort of tied together. When you highlight the Generate IDs, the first thing it's going to ask you on the top, you say when adding records automatically generate, and you should have all of these checked. Whenever you create a new constituent, it should generate a constituent ID number for the new record that you're adding. Same thing with a gift, same thing with, you know, if you have the membership or event. Now, one of the things that a lot of people get confused by is the section underneath it. You have the ability of creating what's called a number prefix. So for instance, it's now 2012. So if I wanted to have the ability, just by looking at the constituent ID to identify when that record was added, I could check this option here and say prefix IDs with the current year, and you have some choices. You can do the full year, so it would say 2012, and then you'd see the number that is going to generate. And you also have this ability to reset the numbering at the start of the year. So in essence, you could be creating records all year long. You would see 2012 and it would be 001, 002, 003, etc., or however you want it to be. And then when it came to 2013, it would reset back to 001. Now, it's a nifty, easy way for you to identify with one look when the record was created. And it's sort of a helpful tip because then you don't have to go to the system's record property in the event that you're trying to find when a record was added. Okay? And you could separate the prefix ID using, and a lot of times you just put a dash. So it'll say 2012 dash, you know, and then whatever record number is being created. And that's a helpful, cool little tip. All right, same thing with the batch numbers. Now down here, when generating a batch, IDs will be generated using the next available number. Now, if you are a brand new database, you are saying your batch to start at 1 and going on up, etc. Now you could do much like you just did with constituent IDs, where you can actually prefix the number with the year and using, say, a dash mark, and start with a brand new batch number series. So you might have 2012-1, 2012-2. Some organizations who've been around for decades or really long times have these batch numbers that are just off the chart. And so a lot of accounting departments are having trouble keeping track. And this is a real quick way to simplify your batches. So you just put basically a year prefix with a dash in whatever batch number you have, all right? And down below, when adding a gift to a batch, warn if the constituent has an outstanding pledge, recurring gift, registration, membership, etc. And any of you who use the batch module who have those options set will recognize that when you put in a person's name, or you after you search for them, it'll pop up and say this person has outstanding pledges, and it gives you the option to apply the payments towards a pledge. And these should all be checked just by default to warn you in the event that you are putting in a gift that should be being paid towards one of these. All right, with that, any questions?